Jaya Rukmini Dwarkadish, Rukmini Dwarkadish, Rukmini Dwarkadish, Rukmini Dwarkadish. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol, Jaya Om Vishnupad, Paramahansa, Parivrajak, Acharya, Asatara, Sri Shrivan. ISKCON BBT founder, Acharya Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitya Lila Prabhupada, Om Vishnupad, Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sakaho, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara. Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopana Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Prajabhumi Namadam Ki Jai. Shri Namadit Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Nilachal Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shrimati Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. The most beautiful lordship. Shri Shukmini Dwarkadish Ki Jai. Shri Shukmini Dwarkanath Ki Jai. Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ki Jai. Shri Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai. Samabeta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Going back to home, back to Godhead Ki Jai. ISKCON Los Angeles Yatra Ki Jai. Brihad Managa Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. International Food for Life Transcendental Prasadam Distribution Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Glory Srila Prabhupada. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Deving Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Hadirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, who's the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly attending the Srimad Bhagavatam class and by rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, whose worship with transcendental songs becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're continuing our reading from the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 16. Today's text is 7. Chapter 16. Today's text is text 7. And it's Brahma Samhita meter is probably the most appropriate, so we'll do that. Yat sevaya charana padma pavitra renum Sadyakshata kilamalang pratilabda shilam. Nashir viraktam apimang vichahati yasya. Preksha lavarta itare niyaman vahanti. Yatsevaya charana padma pavitra renum. Sadyakshata kilamalang pratilabdha shilam. Nashir viraktam apimang vichahati yasya. Preksha lavarta itare niyaman vahanti. Yatsevaya charana padma pavitra renum. Sadyakshata kilamalang pratilabdha shilam. Nashir viraktam apimang vijahati yasya. Preksha lavarta itare niyaman vahanti. Please chant. Lavarta itare niyaman vahanti. Vaishnavis. Vijahatiyasya Prekshalavarta itare niyaman vahanti. Okay, synonyms. Yat, of whom? Sevaya, by the service. Charana, feet. Padma, lotus. Pavitra, sacred. Renum, the dust. Sadhyaha, immediately. Kshata, wiped out. Akhila, all. Malam, sins. Pratilabdha, acquired. Shilam, disposition. Na, not. Shri, the goddess of fortune. Viraktam, have no attachment. Api, even though. Mam, me. Vijahati, leave. Yasyaha, of the goddess of fortune. Prekshalava artaha, for obtaining a slight favor. Itare, others like Lord Brahma. Niyaman, sacred vows. Vahanti, observe. Srila Prabhupada's translation for this verse. The Lord continued, because I am the servitor of my devotees, my lotus feet have become so sacred that they immediately wipe out all sin. And I have acquired such a disposition that the goddess of fortune does not leave me, even though I have no attachment for her, and others praise her beauty and observe sacred vows to secure from her even a slight favor. Please repeat. The Lord continued, because I am the servitor of my devotees, my lotus feet have become so sacred that they immediately wipe out all sin. And I have acquired such a disposition that the goddess of fortune does not leave me, even though I have no attachment for her, and others praise her beauty and observe sacred vows to secure from her even a slight favor. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The relationship between the Lord and his devotee is transcendently beautiful. As the devotee thinks that it is due to being a devotee of the Lord that he is elevated in all good qualities, so the Lord also thinks that it is because of his devotion to the servitor that all his transcendental glories have increased. In other words, as the devotee is always anxious to render service to the Lord, so the Lord is ever anxious to render service to the devotee. The Lord admits herein that although he certainly has the quality that anyone who receives a slight particle of the dust of his lotus feet becomes at once a great personality, this greatness is due to his, Lord Vishnu's, affection for his devotee. It is because of this affection that the goddess of fortune does not leave him, and that not only one but many thousands of goddesses of fortune engage in his service. In the material world, simply to get a little favor from the goddess of fortune, people observe many rigid regulations of austerity and penance. The Lord cannot tolerate any inconvenience on the part of the devotee. He is therefore famous as Bhakta Vatsala. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvashesha Shrinivari Paschachadeshtarne Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtang Stapitang Jaina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakallam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raganatan Matam Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Purjana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Batangscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosate Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kopatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Evacha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I remember, I think it was my second or third visit to the Henry Street Temple in New York, spring of 1973, when I bought the album with Prabhupada chanting the Govindam prayers. If you've never heard that, especially new people, you must listen, because the way Prabhupada chants, I mean, I had just been introduced to Krishna consciousness, but hearing Prabhupada chant those Govindam prayers, my hair stood on end. Chintamani prakara sadmashu kalpa vriksha lakshavarteshu surabhir abhipalayantam. Just that first line, my hair was standing on it. So this first verse. In the morning we chant two of those verses, beginning with Vainam Kwanantam, but this is the first verse. This is being referred to in this purport today. Chintamani prakara sadmashu. Now it's interesting, though the verse starts out Chintamani, which refers to the transcendental gem, the translation that's given to us by Srila Prabhupada, which he got from his spiritual master, how does that start? I worship Govinda, the primary Lord, who is tending the cows. Yes, tending the cows. It's interesting. Even though the Sanskrit starts out with Chintamani, the description, Chintamani Prakaras, Bhaktisiddhanta made the point of tending the cows. So this is Krishna. Krishna's first description that he loves the cows and he personally takes care of them. Personally takes care of them. So we should take that to heart. There are so many people who would think that that's just mythology and whatnot, but we cannot think like that. Just like we don't think that this is some mythological encounter that's being described here between Lord Narayan and the four Kumaras. It's not mythological. Whatever is presented in the book, this is what Sampradaya means. Whatever we get from our spiritual master should be exactly what he got from his spiritual master all the way back to Krishna. So we take it literally. So I tell people all the time, they say, oh, you guys are Hindus, can you come and give the... I said, you may call us Hindus, but if you do that, we are Orthodox Hindus, because we take literally everything that's stated in Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. We don't speculate. In all religious traditions, not just in Hinduism, you have different factions. You have the Orthodoxy, you have those who think that everything is open to interpretation. And of course, you have non-believers. So we're at the Orthodox end of the spectrum, meaning we take literally the scripture. We don't leave ourselves any room for speculation. We don't leave ourselves any room for speculation in the way those scriptures are presented by the Guru. Whatever the Guru says, we accept. So here, there seems to be a bit of a conundrum, a bit of a dichotomy. Lord Vishnu is saying that I have no attachment for the goddess of fortune. But at the same time, he says, I'm attached to my devotees and I serve them. So does that mean the goddess of fortune is not a devotee? It doesn't seem to match. I have no attachment, but I'm attached to my devotees. The way to understand that is that there is a difference between attachment and affection. No attachment doesn't mean no affection. See? Sometimes we misunderstand that, because Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that one of the 20 items of knowledge given in the 13th chapter, texts 8 through 12, Krishna says that asaktir asambhishmanga putra dhara grihadishu, that one should be free from attachment to wife, children, and the rest. So freedom from attachment doesn't mean no affection. Sometimes we misinterpret that. Think I'm not supposed to be attached to my wife and children, so I don't know, why did you get married? Why are you having children? You see, it doesn't mean no affection. Attachment has to be there. That's human. If you don't have attachment, you're not a human being. Even you're not an animal. And animals have attachment. Lions, tigers, other predators, they're so vicious, they'll grab the offspring of some prey animal, like some gazelle or something, and rip it apart and eat it. But you try to touch their offspring, they'll rip you apart. Because there's affection. That lioness has affection for her cubs. That mother bear, everybody knows the most dangerous animal in the world is a mother bear. You go even close to her cub, she'll rip you apart. So there's affection there. Even the animals have natural affection. What to speak of human being? So no attachment doesn't mean no affection. The example I like to use is the Pandavas. They were so attached in terms of affection to Draupadi that the entire Mahabharata Kurukshetra war was fought because she was dishonored, or they attempted to dishonor her. They were willing to put their own lives on the line to protect the honor of their wife Draupadi. Other reasons as well. Krishna wanted them to do it. But that affection was there. Yet, when Krishna left, and they realized that Krishna had left, all 5 Pandavas, they walked out of the palace and just went on this Mahaprasthan. They were ready to go back to God. They didn't even turn around and stated to see. Just because the ladies, Kunti and Draupadi, were looking out the window and saw them leaving, they also decided to follow them. Such strong affection, but no attachment. When it was time to go back to Godhead, no attachment. Not, oh, I can't go because Draupadi is at home and who's going to take care of her? No, walked out the palace and left. So that's, again, not easy to understand. As devotees, we should not have any attachment to this material world. Not even to wife, family, home, everything. Because everything belongs to Krishna. So our affection for them is natural, but our strongest affection should be towards Krishna. That's what it means to reawaken our love of Godhead. When we have love for Krishna, deep affection for Krishna, then everything else falls into place. Real affection for others. Until that love for Krishna is developed, reawakened, because it's there, doesn't need to be actually developed, just reawaken. Until that happens, whatever affection, attachment that we have in this material world is suspect. And we see that all the time. People exhibit great affection for family, friends, society, country, but in an instant, it can be broken. Today, I love you, I love you, I love you, the same person, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. Happens regularly. Because it's not based on reality. We're approaching each other in the name of affection, but it's really fueled by desire for sense gratification. So you may say, well, you know, somebody's so powerful they don't really need. Yes, everybody's needy here, everybody, no matter what externally may seem. So-called powerful dictators, only powerful because they're hordes of foolish people who will do whatever he says. If they stop following his orders, then he has no power. What power does he have as an individual? None, practically. None. Most of the dictators in this world are old men. Any 16-year-old boy, maybe even a 16-year-old girl could grab him by the neck. But he's so-called powerful because there are so many foolish people who will do what he says. No power individually. No power. Not like the demons of old. Those demons were really powerful. If you read the Garga Samhita, it describes how powerful Kamsa was. It wasn't by chance that he became the most powerful demon on the planet when Krishna was here. He personally conquered all the other demons. If they wouldn't submit to him, it would beat the heck out of them. And some of those battles were described as so hair-raising. He was fighting and they would rise to like 800 miles above the surface of the earth fighting. You're a martial artist, can you imagine? Fighting and you go up that high. So those demons were really powerful. And the ones that he couldn't personally conquer, like Jarasandha, he made alliances with them. He married Jarasandha's daughter and like that. So they were really powerful individually, as individuals. But these many demons nowadays, they have no power Again, most of them, you look around in all the countries around the world, most of the leaders are old men, 70, 80 years old. No power. The only power they have is to make their lives and others' lives miserable by not following the standard rules and regulations for being a leader. Yes, there are rules and regulations for everything. Everything is laid out in the Shastra. What a leader should do, how the followers should think, what the Brahmanas should do, what the Kshatriyas should do, what the Vaishyas should do. Everything is there, standard. So Prabhupada was surprised when he came west that you people have no standard of behavior, no standard of understanding. Everything is just willy-nilly, do whatever I want, and then you expect good result. You're not going to get any good result. It has to be standard. We have to follow standard. And that applies to us also. In the temple, I always say, if you're given a service to do, find someone who's been doing that service before and learn from them. Don't try to figure it out, and it's not necessary. Somebody's been doing that service. Whatever it is, dressing the deities, book distribution, Harinam, anything, whatever service you want to do, you've been given to do, find somebody who's been doing it and learn from them. Membership director. There have been so many membership directors before you. Don't try to figure it out. Talk to the authorities. Speak to the others who have done that service. Everything, there's a standard way of doing it. And because we deviate from the standard, I'll give you an example. As a young devotee, I loved halava. I used to eat, I can't tell you how much halava. But over this last decade or so, I can't even remember until yesterday, the day before yesterday, the last time I had eaten halava. I just kind of avoid it. Not just, it's not appealing as it used to be. And one of the reasons is that the devotees who are making the halava don't make it like halava should be made. But a couple of days ago, somewhere or other, I just developed a desire to eat halava. And Radha Kripa Mai, while I was sitting in class, she came by with one of those little cups of halava. She indicated I made it. So I said, okay, yeah, I'll try it. So I went home and tried it, and it was good halava because she followed the standard for making halava. Quite often, devotees don't put enough butter, or they put too much butter. They don't toast the grains long enough. If you don't toast the grains properly, it's cereal. It's not halava. The grains have to be properly toasted. I was fortunate to be properly trained how to make halava. You toast the grains until it seems that all the butter is absorbed. And then you keep toasting it, and then it starts to give back. And then you know it's done. And it's a golden color. Usually we're using semolina or farina to make halava. So there's a standard way to do it. That recipe is there, and we have so many good cookbooks with standard recipes for making. So you don't have to speculate. You go into the deity kitchen to make a sabji. Please don't speculate. Open Yamuna's cookbook or open the Hare Krishna book of vegetarian cooking and select a recipe and follow it. And then you have a good chance of getting good result. Otherwise, we get into this habit of speculating, and then the result is not guaranteed. So, Lord Narayan here is describing himself, his mentality, his heart. We've heard the descriptions of the four Kumaras, Jai and Vijay, and the kingdom of God. Do we want to go there? Do we want to go there? How many of us want to go to the spiritual world? Should be everybody. That's why we're following this path. The first motivation for taking to spiritual life should be to get out of this crazy material world, which is falling apart around us. Noisy, dirty, crazy people. A couple of nights ago, Monday night, I came out, as I usually do, because I'm a lifelong insomniac. I came out at 11:30 just to check on the BBT doors, make sure everything's locked. Some guy was in this alleyway between the parking lot and the building, kneeling down. So I was thinking, wow. I mean, you could see he was a homeless guy, street guy. But I was thinking, this guy is so, spiritual. He's kneeling down next to the temple. But then I kept watching. Why was he kneeling down? He took out of his pocket a big pipe of something and was lighting it up and smoking. Kneeling down in the alleyway, smoking this huge pipe. Crazy people were surrounded by crazy. So I immediately looked around to see who was on duty, and then it was Naikatma. But Naikatma had already seen him. He was keeping an eye on him. So we should want to get out of this crazy world. Noisy. And that same night, as I finally go home at 11:30 trying to take rest, not one, not two, 6 motorcycles went east on Venice. As loud as they could. As loud as they could. So this world is full of crazy people. and it's full of noise and dirt, and we should want to get out of here. So when we hear these descriptions of the Lord and the devotees in Vaikuntha, we should want to go there to get out of this crazy place. Now the 4 Kumars, they went and they came back. Interesting. Krishna says, that when you go to the spiritual world, you don't come back. But some individuals do. The 4 Kumars went, and they came back. They didn't stay there after this incident. They came back to the material world. Who else goes and comes regularly? Narad Muni. Interestingly though, there's another character that we wouldn't consider to be so devotional who went and came back. Who is that? Durvasa Muni. Yes, Durvasa Muni. Because of that incident with Ambarish, he went to the spiritual world and came back. Generally, when you go to the spiritual world, you go there in your spiritual body, your Swarupa, your original spiritual form. But obviously, in the case of Durvasa Muni, he didn't go there in a spiritual body. He went in his material body and came back to the material world. So the same with the 4 Kumars. Those 4 baby bodies are the bodies that they acquired here. Now, they're not exactly like our bodies. But bodies in the material world are made of different combinations of earth, water, fire, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. Different combinations. So their bodies they're mentally generated sons of Lord Brahma. Their bodies are made of finer material elements. But still, they're in material bodies, and they went to the spiritual world and came back. However, by hearing of the spiritual world descriptions, we should want to go there. We should want to get out of here and take as many people as possible with us. That's the motivation. Just by hearing, and Prabhupada stated that many times, he said, you hear about some foreign country, just like I heard about America before coming here, and you develop a desire to go there. So we should develop a desire. A couple of days ago, I went to my PCP, my primary care physician, Dr. Bhuta, who is in the building right next to the BBT. We've known each other for decades. He's 80 years old. He said he's going to retire, and that building is going to become a veterinary hospital. His daughter-in-law is going to turn that whole building into it. I hope they're not too noisy, not too much barking and meowing and whatever goes on in the vet hospitals. But anyway, we were talking. He's originally from Mumbai, so he's going to go back, and he's aware of our temple there and the temple in Chowpatty. But he said he was going to go to a wedding in Pune. So I said, we have a temple in Pune also. Not only that, a couple of hours from there, we have our Govardhan Eco Village. I said, you must go. So just by my describing it, he really wants to go. He said, yes, I have to go. So I'm going to give him all the details, how to go to Govardhan Eco Village. So if we hear about some attractive place, natural tendencies, we want to go there. So why don't we have strong desire to go back to the spiritual world, even after hearing repeatedly about the spiritual world? That's how strongly attached we are to this material world. So we have to work on it. How do we work on it? By repeatedly hearing of the glories of the spiritual world. That's why we say, New Dwarka Dham Ki Jai. We're actually in the spiritual world. Vrindavan Dham. Dham is not different from the Lord. Dham is expansion of the Lord's spiritual energy. So we should be attracted to the Lord and His spiritual energy. We should want to get out of this crazy place. Prabhupada tells a story from the Christian world, how one Christian preacher in England, he was noticing that in his particular town, nobody was coming. And in that town, it's mostly miners that live there. So he was trying to get them to come. He said, if you don't come to church and surrender to Jesus Christ, you'll go to hell. No reaction. So he realized they don't know what hell is. So he started describing hell to them. It's dark, it's hot, it's no reaction. Then he realized, yes, they work in the mines. It's dark, it's hot. So how to get them? He said, there's no newspaper. Then they became a little bit scared. No newspaper. Oh, we don't want to go there. So that's the negative way. The positive way is to describe the kingdom of God. That attracts people to take to the path of religion, spirituality, to want to get out of this dark, cold, hot at the same time. So many, just like this weekend, we're going to get an anomaly, a weather anomaly. They said the last time a storm hit Southern California of this magnitude was like 1939, something like that. And it's going to go all the way inland. I'm flying out this afternoon, so just by coincidence, I'm going to San Francisco rather, yet. But this is the nature of this place. Either no water, drought, or too much water. And this is going on all over the world. In China, they recently had a huge storm and flooding in Beijing all over the place. So this is a material world. There's no fixity here. Everything is constantly changing. The material energy is constantly changing, and not always for the better. So we should want to go back to the spiritual world. No birth, no death, no old age, no disease, no taxes, no noisy neighbors. Everything there is perfect. We have lost understanding of perfection because we've been here so long, but we should be attracted by descriptions of perfection. So here the Lord is describing His perfect mentality, His perfect heart. That's why He's known as Bhaktavatsala. He's affectionate to His devotees, even though He's not attached to them. He's not attached to anyone. He describes Himself here, I'm not attached to the goddess of fortune. That doesn't mean He's not affectionate to the goddess of fortune. He's just not attached. He's Atmarama. Krishna is described as Atmarama, self-satisfied. Doesn't require service from anyone, but is very grateful for even the smallest service. So we should take that to heart and continue on our path. Try to increase our attraction for the process, for the Supreme Lord, for His abode, and want to go back to home, back to Godhead. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. No, I have to go, Maris. I mean, you can continue going if you want, but I have to leave. Yeah, I'm saying you can continue if you like.
Just quick, really. It's just kind of like a tag. So what Archer has been saying is very wonderful, very beautiful, very glorious, and we should. But why should we want to go back to Godhead? Because it's free of misery, free of pain, free of suffering, and full of bliss, joy, happiness, exaltation. Everything that we aspire to is there. So that's why we want to go back, not just because somebody says it, but because it's a contrast to what we are experiencing here. That's it.